What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to GAA Fan TV, the show that keeps you up to date with everything that is happening in the world of both GAA football and hurling. And yeah, guys, we've quite a lot to get through covering the weekend that happened. There were some crazy scorelines, some crazy games, some shocks, some brilliant games. And I suppose we'll start off by talking about football, and we'll talk a little bit later about Longford's victory, Dublin getting the victory, and of course victories as well for Roscommon, Donegal, and of course Cork. But we have to start with Carlow. What an absolute result this was for Carlow football. Of course, I said in my preview that Carlow and Kildare, this game will be a lot closer than people would expect. A lot of people had Kildare as big favourites going into this, and I suppose fair enough, Kildare are the Division 1 team. But Carlow, just the amount of momentum they had from Division 4, following on from their campaign from last year, their victory over Louth coming into this game, and they were superb against Kildare. This was a really, really good performance. Their accuracy was on point. I don't even think they kicked it wide in the game, which is absolutely phenomenal when you think about sport in general, how hard that actually is for a team like Carlow to be so precise, not only in their shooting but also their passing as well, the way they moved. And I think this is more and more evidence that if the blanket defence is done in the most proper way it can be, in the most efficient way, it definitely does get results. And Carlow, for me, this is all what isn't about defending. Some people look at Carlow as a very defensive side, and I'll admit, myself, I said they were very defensive. They're not. They play defensive, but they break so quickly. It reminds me a lot of that Donegal team that won the All-Ireland back in 2012. Obviously they're not as good as them, but the way they break is just so brilliant. Sean Murphy, absolutely fantastic. Sean Broderick as well, another really, really good player for Carlow. And they're on the up at the moment. They're certainly rising. It's going to be very, very interesting to see how far they can go in the Leinster campaign. Can they get past Laois and reach that Leinster final? And just unbelievable really for Carlow football when you look at the amount of things they're doing, the amount of achievements they're hitting. I mean, the Super 8s Championship is looking very likely for Carlow, and that is an unbelievable achievement for a team like them. And even if they were to beat Laois and play Dublin, although you would expect Dublin to win that game, provided they beat Longford, they'll make it competitive. They'll make it competitive without a shadow of a doubt. When they played Dublin last year in the Leinster Championship, they actually were, I think they got beaten by as least amount of points as anyone did when they played Dublin. So that just goes to show how good Carlow are, how organised they are, and how much they have improved. And fair play to them. As for Kildare, big defeat. Cian O'Neill back to the drawing board. They've got Derry coming up now in the qualifiers. I think that should be a winnable game, although they will have to go to Derry, which might be pretty tricky. But just a massive decline. We've seen this all over in Leinster football this weekend. A lot of teams on decline, and Kildare was very, very poor in my opinion. But massive credit to Carlow because they were exceptional. They didn't just win this game, they won it comfortably, and that's something you cannot take away from them. Some of the other games in Leinster, Dublin cruising past Wicklow. I think we all expected this, 425 to 111. In that first half, Dublin were on it. I was expecting Dublin to come out of the blocks pretty slow, just because it's the first game and it's not in Croke Park. But no, they were unbelievable. 4 goals in the first half. Fantastic again. Conor O'Callaghan was unbelievable. Dean Rock getting on the score sheet as well. There's just so much range of Dublin players. Brian Fenton getting on the score sheet as well. He kicked a number of fantastic points. And it just looks so comfortable. It looked like, that still doesn't look like Dublin's best, and that's quite scary in many ways. But for Wicklow, back into the qualifiers for them, to get here, get to a quarter final, coming up against Dublin, what can you say? This is something they probably expected. I think everyone kind of expected this. Had they been playing any of the other teams from Leinster, who knows what they could have done. So sometimes it just happens to be on what side of the draw you fall on. So unlucky for Wicklow. Meath were beaten as well. They lost to Longford. Really, to be fair to Longford, they controlled this game. They always kept it really tight against Meath. This game to me was just about hunger. Who wanted it more? Who was going to go for it more? Who was going to take on the opposition? And I look at the start of the second half when Longford came out. They hit 3 points without reply, and they kept that same sort of steady routine throughout the game. And Meath, massive problems for them. They're declining in the National League. Another huge defeat for them now in Leinster. If they had won this game, they would have had a game against Dublin at Croke Park, which would have been good for their fan base and for their supporters at least. They're not getting that now, and instead they go into the qualifiers playing Tyrone, which you probably expect them to lose as well. So Meath, a lot of work to do if they want to, come back to the heights that they were hitting in the late 90s and early 2000s. A long way off, but they just need to be more competitive, in my opinion. They should be beating teams like Longford, and they're not. But look, listen, fair play to Longford getting that victory, and what an occasion for them going to Croke Park to play Dublin. Laois, of course, they were victorious as well, cruising past Westmeath, showing they mean business in this game. A hat-trick from Paul Kingston. The Kingston brothers in general are just really good. Laois have got that fine balance at the moment where they're very good going forward, and they're very good on possession as well. They were patient against Westmeath because Westmeath sat back early on, and Laois had to be patient, but once the first goal went in, they just kept flowing. Paul Kingston, some fantastic finishes from him, some really good goals. They got another goal late on as well, and Laois were comfortable in the end. Westmeath, of course, said before, they're a team that's kind of coming to the end of their time, in my opinion. A team that was reaching a couple of Leinster finals there a number of years ago. It's back to the drawing board for them as well, I'm afraid. But look, listen, massive congrats to Laois. They will play Carlow in that semi-final of the Leinster Championship, and who would have thought that two Division 4 teams will be battling out in a Leinster semi-final? I think, regardless of who wins, it's a phenomenal achievement for both of them. And there's, if they can get the right draws along the way, there's ever so much of a chance that one of these two could be in the Super 8 Championship, not even both, which is a stretch, but who knows, in my opinion. But fair play to Laois, huge result, huge victory, and best of luck to them in the next round. Moving across to the west, of course, Roscommon seen off Leitrim. I think we all seen this pretty much coming. There's not a lot to say here, really. Roscommon were as much as what we expected. Leitrim tried to keep it competitive, but they massively struggled. Roscommon are they're a very good attacking team. I'm not sure if I have them as favourites yet going into that Connacht final. I'll have to see exactly what happens between Galway and Sligo and how well Galway play. But Roscommon are very good going forward. At times when they click, they are very good. The only problem is defensively they leave a lot of gaps, and that can be exploited. But fair play to Roscommon getting that victory, of course, in Ulster. Wins as well for Donegal and Down, who will play each other now in an Ulster semi-final. Donegal comfortable really against Derry. Derry kept it pretty competitive for the large part, but Donegal were fantastic with the experience of Michael Murphy and McHugh as well, who I thought was really good. Donegal really comfortable. They've got a couple of young players coming through at the moment. It's going to take them time to really hit the heights that they probably were back in like 2012 and 2014, but they are on the rise. There's absolutely no doubt about it. They're coming back to, they're getting closer to where they were a couple of years ago, and you would strongly feel that they would see off Down in that semi-final. But Down done the job against Antrim, pretty professional. McCarlan with the goal, which I thought was a really nice one, and Down seeing off an Antrim team that, let's be honest, was probably one of the weakest teams in Ulster. But fair play to Down, and Down getting a bit of confidence going into that game against Donegal. They caused a shock last year when they reached the Ulster final. There's no reason why they can't do it again this year, in my opinion. They'll go in as underdogs as well, which will suit them. But I just fancy Donegal. The pace of Donegal at times with McHugh and Michael Murphy, they're just so good the way they move the ball, and they're very fluid. So I would expect Donegal to see off Down in that game when it comes around. But look, listen, fair play to both of them getting through their games, and obviously Antrim and Derry into the qualifiers. Cork, meanwhile, they cruised past Tipperary in this game. I had a feeling this one would be very close. I think I said this was going to be a draw or something like that. Maybe I mixed that up with a hurling, who knows. But look, listen, Cork fantastic in this one. Luke Connolly was really good. I thought the way he held up the ball, some of his points, the way he laid it off to Colm O'Neill for that goal as well. Of course, he looks like he could be injured now for a bit, so hopefully that's not too bad for Cork. But when they get going, when they get playing, when they play at their maximum potential, they are a very good team. There's absolutely no doubt about it. You can't write Cork off. Let's not forget that last year the teams that beat them were Kerry and Mayo, and it wasn't like they were hammered in either of them games, so you can't discount them. They are a good team. They just need to get a good run behind their belt. Confidence is a big thing with them as well. But as for Tipperary, massively disappointing. I know they had a week to prepare for this game, less than a week actually, but are you going to use that as an excuse? Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. Michael Quinlivan was decent for Tipperary, kicked a few good points, but just not good enough in my opinion. They'll go on to the qualifiers as well. But for Cork, on to that Munster final against Kerry. And we know Cork will raise their game against Kerry, they always tend to. But yeah, they were really good in this game in my opinion. It's going to be interesting to see what happens next time out. So if we move across to hurling, the game of the weekend was without doubt the match between Cork and Tipperary. What a game this one was. This was everything you want to see in hurling. Furious, intense, competitive, absolutely everything. And Tipperary didn't show up in that first half at all. Cork had a huge lead at one point. There were 7 points up at one stage before Tipperary got that goal. And, you know, it was getting really, really worrying for Tipperary. Had they have lost this game, they would have been thinking, you know, their chances of potentially progressing through the Munster Championship would be looking quite slim. And it was looking that at one point because Cork were so good at times. Shane Kingston with a goal and 5 points in this one. He was outstanding, especially his goal was just really, really nice. And Cork were controlling the game, they were in front, but you got to give credit to Tipperary, who fought back massively under the influence of John McGrath. Huge fight back to get this draw. Had they have lost this, as I said, massive pressure would have been on them going into that game next week against Waterford. But that draw gives them a huge chance. Waterford were beaten by Clare. I expected more from Waterford. I didn't realise they had as many players injured as they did, and they were really poor in this one. And they had a lot of injuries during the game as well. Unfortunate stuff really, but I think they're looking like the weakest team in Munster now at the moment, which is a big shame because I think if they had all their players fit, like Austin Gleeson, etc., they'd be up there, without doubt. They'd definitely be up there. But Clare, looking very, very good. I thought they were good last week against Cork, but they're even better this week. Far more clinical, much more precise, and they got the job done and got the points as well, which is massive for them. Wexford completely destroyed Offaly in a game in Leinster. Really poor from Offaly, maybe too many games in a row. They had 3 players sent off in this game, which was just bizarre. You very, very rarely ever see that. And yeah, Wexford just picked them off. Loads of goals, crazy game, pretty mental. And Wexford just absolutely destroying Offaly in the end. Shane Dooley got a goal at the end for Offaly, but that was nothing more than a consolation. So look, listen, fair play to Wexford getting that result. 2 wins from 2, going into a big game for them next week, I believe, against Galway. And speaking of Galway, they seen off Kilkenny. One thing that most impressed me about Galway in this one was the fact that they were playing, you know, one of the best teams in the country without doubt. You can't deny that. And they still looked very, very comfortable. They looked in control of the game. They just have a lot of talent, and Joe Canning's probably the best hurler in the country. I don't think there's much point denying that. Maybe Walter Welsh had that tag at one stage. But certainly Joe Canning, 1 goal and 12 points in this one. Phenomenal penalty from him, just outstanding in all regards. Conor Cooney hitting 4 points as well. And Galway looked always pretty comfortable. Kilkenny would, you know, they'd come back at certain stages, they'd hit a goal here and there. But in the end, Galway did enough to get the victory, and huge result for them. 2 wins from 2, I believe, for them now as well. They still have to play Dublin and Wexford. And I think Galway will look at it and think, you know, they could win both of those games, in my opinion, pretty comfortable. I think Wexford will be tough though, because Wexford go in good form. But it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. But yeah, good result for Galway. Kilkenny, I still expect them to finish in that top 3 in Leinster and get through in the end. So not too much of a disappointment for Brian Cody's men. Anyway guys, that is going to be the end of the video. If you have enjoyed, please drop a like, subscribe, all that stuff. Yeah guys, going to keep pumping out the videos for the next couple of weeks, especially while the championship is in full flow. You know, matches or previews every week, predictions every week, reviewing games, absolutely everything. And yeah guys, I will catch you all when I catch you. So alright, good luck.